One people, one nation, and one country. That's how it should have been. But some jackass at some point in history said fuck it. And we ended up with Frankenstein nations. Technically, every country in Africa is a Frankenstein nation. But since Africa is made up of fake borders drawn by white Europeans, we won't count that. Instead, we'll move to Switzerland, a country that under normal circumstances would be an absolute shit show. How do we know this? Because Switzerland has a history of going to war with Switzerland. The country is composed of three groups of people who brutalized each other multiple times in history. And trust me when I say this, that the Germans, Italians and French can never live in peace together. Okay, then how is Switzerland so rich and stable? Well, mainly because of two reasons. Number one, an Austrian painter with a lot of ambitions, and number two, Switzerland's insane geography. The country is strategically placed in between the center of Europe with the opening to the world's oceans. So the Swiss set their differences aside and took advantage of that by literally creating the most infamous banking sector in the entire world, which in turn made it the financial hub of Europe, and that's how Switzerland ended up being so rich. But I agree with Muammar Gaddafi, Switzerland should be divided between France, Germany and Italy. Then moving on to Bosnia and Herzegovina, this country is an accurate representation of the Balkans. The country is made up of Bosniaks, Croats and Serbs, and unlike Switzerland which got the good end of the stick, Bosnia and Herzegovina received the bad end of the stick, not once, not twice, but literally every single time. Like, this is the birthplace of the First World War and in turn the Second World War. The people there are not just ethnically diverse but also religiously diverse. The Serbs are Orthodox, the Croats are Catholics and the Bosniaks are Muslims, which makes things even more complex. And if you are dissatisfied with your shitty president, then consider yourself lucky, because these guys have to deal with three of them, which makes the bureaucracy in this country a dumpster fire. And let's not even talk about their geography. The internal borders are just a border guard, and the tiny coastline is just really depressing. Belgium is also another example of manifesting your intrusive thoughts. The sole reason why it was allowed to exist was to become the punching bag of Western Europe, because somebody has to take all the crap on their shoulders. The country is sharply divided between the Dutch-speaking north and the French-speaking south, two polar opposite groups of people, and the Belgian politics reflects that. The country made the world record of going the longest time without a government, and they continue to break their own record every time. Like, at this point, just break up into two countries for real. And finally, Ethiopia. This country is the African version of the HRE. Now, I have said that I won't go to Africa, but this country was never colonized, so I will. Disclaimer, I am not about to colonize Ethiopia, I'll just talk about it. Every part of the country has their own ethnic group, their own language and their own sets of naughty things. The diversity in this country makes it highly unstable. The different states of the country don't think twice before starting a war with each other. The most recent example would be the Tigray War. And the thing I find most weird about this country is that it was a beacon of civilization, it was never colonized, and yet it went through the same geographic mumbo jumbo as the rest of Africa. So there you have it, some of the geographic catastrophe of our lifetime. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to watch this video.